Senator Feinstein, thanks for coming in.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You are asking the voters for another 6-year term. What would you like to do with your time?
Well, what I want to do is be constructive and be helpful to our state, to our nation, and California today is either the 5th or 6th largest economic power on earth. So I would like to see that economic power properly delivered to make the world a better place for people.
You, of course, are on the Intelligence Committee. You're privy to all kinds of information about things that are happening with our allies and with our adversaries. And I want to ask you about Saudi Arabia, because, of course, the apparent murder of Jamal Khashoggi has put a lot of focus on the attention on Saudi Arabia. What do you think the U.S. should do with regard to punishing or responding to what's happened?
Well, I can tell you what I won't do. I will not vote for Saudi arms sales. I'm concerned about how they're conducting the war in Yemen, the school buses they've hit, the children they've killed. And I'm really surprised that this was enabled by the monarchy to take place. And it had to have been that way. I think we all know enough of the story now to know that this just didn't happen. It was planned. People were sent to carry it out. This is not anyone's way, let alone the American way.
So you don't buy the president's line that we can't give up this $110 billion arms deal?
No, that's not what we stand for. We're not a country that revolves around arms sales. We're a country that revolves around American values and human rights values. And that's what's made this country so desirable all over the world. It's not arms sales. It's what we are as a people and what we believe. And it's our sense of what's right and what's wrong and the ability to fight for right. And right now, we have a fight for right with Saudi Arabia.
I want to ask you about the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. You're the ranking Democrat, and you did get that letter from Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, and you got some criticism for holding on to it, for not giving it to the FBI sooner than you did.
Yes,
any regrets
Republicans
about that?
did. I would probably do it differently. The letter in 3 places said this is confidential. When I talked to her, she was not in shape to come forward. Let me say that. That was my judgment. It was not a short phone call. And I agreed to keep it confidential. She didn't want. When it all changed is when she came forward. And then when she agreed to testify. And then I gave it to the committee.
Yeah, and what would you do differently?
Well, it's a very hard question, Scott. It took this woman a long time, and this testimony was not easy for her. So terrible things happen to women, and this woman was 15 years old when it happened.
Do you have any regrets about the way it was handled?
No. I had to handle it that way, and I think I know how it came out, and I learned a lesson there, because I believe it came out from another colleague, and that was a surprise.
A colleague, another senator?
Yes.
Can you say
That's
which
my
one?
belief. No, I would never do that. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your reelection. You're 85 years old. And this week, Joe Biden, who I think is 75, said that if he runs for president in 2020, age is a relevant issue. Bernie Sanders said the same thing. I think he's 77 or will be soon. Do you think is it a relevant issue in this race?
Sure. I mean, it's a consideration. If people want somebody younger, they have somebody younger. I really believe that my history has given me certain abilities to do certain things. And if people don't agree with that, then vote another way. But my health is good. I can go the distance. I enjoy it. And a good part of my life is wrapped around helping people. It's just, for me, there's satisfaction. I can tell you individual stories, but it makes my life worthwhile too. And I can give to people.
You were mayor of San Francisco for many years. And there is a measure on the San Francisco ballot, Measure C, would tax the wealthiest companies in San Francisco and generate about $350 million a year for homelessness. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, is for it. Mayor Breed and others are against it. What's your position?
I'm for it. Yes. Why? Because we have to help. We don't have a choice. When you see someone lying, and I just did, on a hot sidewalk, sleeping with nothing. That's not the United States of America. And particularly if they happen to be an addict, an alcoholic, or medically ill.
The critics of Measure C, and they include the Chamber of Commerce and others, say that it's going to cost jobs and that it's going to influx too much money, that they don't have a plan for spending.
Look, I'm going to vote for virtually almost any homeless plan. I just am. Because this is my country, this is my city. I grew up in San Francisco. People weren't homeless. A lot of people looked at it, well, this will last for 5 years and then it'll pass. It hasn't. It's gotten worse. It's involved more families, more youngsters.
I think it's been about, if my math is right, 30 years since you've been mayor of San Francisco.
That's about right.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, you know, the city now is so different, and especially the economy. I mean, the tech industry is so prevalent now. And I'm wondering, like, what do you see as the upside and the downside of those changes?
Well, the upside is jobs. And the upside is producing a whole new generational competitive workforce based on new instruments, which is technology, which didn't exist those 30 years ago. And it's kind of fascinating to watch. History is going to show us whether it's worthwhile or not.
What do you see as the downside?
To be very candid, I don't see tech as very civically involved. And I think they have to be. And I think the CEOs, like when I was mayor, the CEOs of the big banks, I could go in and ask them to help with any civic cause. Cross my heart, I never got a no.
Why do you think CEOs today in the tech industry are less receptive to that?
I don't understand it, to be honest with you. It's a much more reserved world. It's sort of a world apart to some extent. To meet with some of the tech leaders, and I guess they're like any other group of people. There are some that want to be helpful, and there's some that don't.
Senator Dianne Feinstein, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.